We know you have all seen them.
What, the cheap cruises?
I mean, $99 a person.
It sounds great.
It sounds amazing.
That sounds awesome. Until it doesn't.
Yeah, sometimes there are some things that are hidden that you do not see behind the scenes after you book those cheap cruises.
So we're going to give you 5 of those things.
5.
So you can just make an informed decision when you get ready to book that cheap cruise.
So in this video today, we are going to discuss the 5 things that you need to look for when booking cheap cruises. Now, we're not here to discourage you from booking those cheap cruises, but we want to make sure you are well informed.
I know sometimes you just want to get away.
I know I do. Because
I know you're the queen of cheap deals.
I love a cheap deal.
I know. Let's give the people something to think about. You're going to want to stay tuned for number 1 because it's important.
All right, let's get into it. Number 5, crowded public areas. Sometimes when you book those cheap cruise deals,
they're on tiny ships.
That's right. The smaller the ship, the cheaper the cruise. That's been our experience anyway. So you're going to have to look for some things that you probably won't see on the newer or bigger ships, such as a small pool deck. And what comes with small pool decks?
A lot of people. And typically people, in our experience, either when you first board the ship, they're already there.
They're already there.
So you can go ahead and cancel getting to the pool on the first day. On the second day or the next days, people wake up super early.
And they save those loungers.
Yes. Just be aware that if you're booking a cheap cruise, that you're going to have to get, especially to the pool decks, super quick.
Absolutely. The next thing you can look forward to are crowded buffets.
So, especially tough on boarding day.
Yes. Yes.
Because there have been times where, we've had a later boarding time, and once we get on the ship, we, like everybody else, we're going to the buffet.
Right. You're going to experience a long wait time at buffets.
So the most egregious example of this is on boarding day. Typically when you have later boarding times, you're getting to the buffet a little later than usual. Everybody's already been there for a couple hours maybe. And there's just nowhere to sit. So typically we spend most of our time walking around looking for somewhere to sit. And typically we'll just end up outside where it is hot.
Most of the times it is hot, yes.
Yes.
Or raining. It could be a rainy day. So finding a place to sit in buffet areas, finding dining, late boarding is another thing that happens when you book a cheap cruise. Next thing that we want you to consider is the elevators. The elevators are going to be packed because nobody's going to want to take the stairs. Why do you want to work out on vacation?
You're like a little bit too long and hard.
I'm just saying. So elevators tend to be packed. People really don't want to move towards other areas of the ship because it's usually the first thing that they see. And the crew, when you're on the ship, they're pushing you to a specific set of elevators where you can go straight to lunch, but that tends to lead towards people crowding and bunching up in the area and it being hard to catch an elevator.
Yes. And the question is always going to be, can you fit one more? The answer is always should be no.
It should be no.
So what about the entertainment venues?
Entertainment venues, yeah. If it is a cheaper cruise and the cruise is being close to sold out, that means people are going to want stuff to do. And if you don't get there early enough or on time, the entertainment venues can be packed.
You're going to have to get there an hour beforehand to get a good seat.
Well, one thing I can say, the upside is...
What's up?
You'll make plenty of friends while you wait in line. All right, number 4.
Less desirable itineraries and ports of call.
Yeah, usually with cheap cruises, you don't really get a big selection of where the cruise is going to go because those cruises tend to be a little bit shorter in time.
Yes, and shorter cruises typically mean Nassau or Freeport, Bahamas.
Yeah. And if you are avid cruisers like us, you have been to Nassau plenty of times and we love it there. You just want to experience something a little bit different.
It's simply something you don't get on a cheaper cheaper sailing.
Yes.
We love Nassau and we love Freeport, but once you've done it, 10, 15 times, it starts to lose a little bit of luster. So, maybe pay a little bit more for, St. Thomas or
Grand Canyon. Yes. You also want to think about the time that you will be in port. Sometimes with the cheaper sailings and shorter cruises, you won't be in port as long, so you'll have less time to experience the area. So you may be in port 4 or 5 hours versus having 7 to 8 hours. So you do need to be aware of your time when you're in port. Pro tip, before you take your cruise, make sure you check your itinerary carefully and make sure that it's actually going to the protocol that you want to visit so you're not wasting your money. Number 3, limited dining options and food.
We all love food.
I love food.
We all love to eat.
Some people cruise for food.
Yes. But if you're sailing on a cheaper cruise, your options are going to be limited.
Yes.
And when we say limited, maybe 3 to 5 different places to eat.
You're probably going to have a limited amount of dining venues and not being able to get those specialty dining reservations that you usually can get on a larger ship, because if you're taking a cheaper cruise, it's probably going to be a limited amount, or you're just not going to be able to have that option.
Your primary source of sustenance is going to be pizza. We all love pizza.
We love pizza.
Some cruises will have the pizza open well into the night, but there are some places on some cruises that the pizza shuts down at 9. So after 9 o'clock, then your options are going to be limited. So we don't want you to go hungry. So just be aware. Yeah.
I mean, you may have room service options, but some cruise lines charge for room service. And if you're trying to save money, that's not going to work for you and your budget. Cruise. Yeah, we're on a cheap cruise, right? We don't want to spend that money. Also, if it is a cheaper cruise, which will probably be a shorter cruise, you're also looking at eating the same thing probably over and over again.
Yes.
On Margaritaville at Sea Islander, we did have a 5-day cruise, and it was fairly inexpensive for us. But when we went to the dining venues, the menu was kind of limited, and you didn't really have a lot of choice in what you ate.
And you're only limited to 1 entree for free. Second, multiple entrees cost money.
$7 each entree.
So again, that defeats the purpose of us being on a cheap cruise.
Now, don't get me wrong, you're not going to go hungry. But you may just be limited in what you can eat.
Yes.
If you like the tips that we've given you so far, don't forget to subscribe to Parkers on the Go, where we can give you more tips for your next cruise. Now, back to the video.
Number 2, smaller, and I'll just say it, older cabins.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Personal examples for us is that I booked a cheap cruise for my wife's birthday. So a week before the cruise, so they gave us a cabin. And what cabin did we get? We got a cabin right above the theater.
Nice interior cabin, no windows, no balcony, right above the theater. I can swear it was probably on top of the speakers.
And they were playing Midnight Bingo.
Who knew cruise lines did that? Midnight Bingo on a cruise line is crazy.
They usually don't do that, but they did on our sailing.
Yes, they did.
So again, that's the downside of booking a cheaper cruise, is that you don't know what kind of cabin you're going to get, and they're just going to stick you anywhere.
Yeah. Cabin could be too small. If you need a wheelchair, a motorized chair, may not be able to fit inside the cabin. You're also looking at probably not having access to USB ports, which is so important in today's society right now, that you are able to charge and use USB ports. They may not be an option for you. So you may end up having to buy an extender, which is additional money, to be able to charge and do the things you need to do in the cabin.
So you're going to be looking at cabins with wear and tear. So example, on our Margaritaville at Sea Paradise, we did not have a working shower, and we did not have a working toilet.
We did not.
And there was a smell in the cabin.
Yes.
And there was also a wet spot in the cabin as well. So again, cheap cabin, a lot of wear and tear.
Yes.
which bathrooms are important.
they're pretty important on a cruise. Remember, you get what you pay for, and if you're not spending most of your time in the cabin, this might not be a deal breaker for you, but for some folks, this is a huge deal breaker.
So the number one thing you should consider when booking a cheaper cruise is the hidden cost and fees.
We booked this cruise to be cheap, right?
Yes.
And if you're spending more money than you expected to spend, it's not really saving you any money. So, number one reason, gratuities. People forget about gratuities, and we're not here to tell you whether you should pay them or not. That's not our ministry. What we're here to tell you today is you can either prepay your gratuity, which adds on to the cost, or you can wait until you get on the ship. What you choose to do is your business, but we just want to share with you that this is an extra cost that can be added on to your cheap cruise.
Example for us, we took again, a lot of this is going to go back to the Margaritaville at Sea Paradise. But for us, we booked a cruise for $99 a person. Great deal, right? So when we get to the last day, we see that there, and this is also with onboard credit as well, there are the gratuities, and there's like administrative fees.
Yes.
And there's a fuel surcharge. Now, this is all typically stuff that is added in on a kind of normal cruise.
Yes.
All this stuff is typically added in, which is fine. As long as I see it up front, I'm good. But to see that stuff added on the back end was a little discouraging.
Yes. So I will add this caveat. This particular cruise we're talking about, we took last year. That was before the new regulations and guidelines came in that everything needed to be posted up front for you. So if you book a cruise and you do have some last minute charges that you're not familiar with, you may want to speak to someone at Guest Services, because upfront charges are now supposed to be included. Your taxes, your port fees, all of that stuff is now supposed to be included in your booking. All cruise lines should be in compliance with that. Okay, the other thing that you may want to consider is the extras that you're going to want when you cruise. Some people like drink packages. That can cost you. Not only will that cost you, depending on if you have someone in the cabin with you that is over the age of 21, they have to have it too with most cruise lines. So that means you're buying a drink package for 2 people. And depending on the cruise line, that can be anywhere between $50 to $75 a day, depending on the package. So that per person per day can add up fairly quickly. The other thing you want to think about is excursions. If you're taking short excursions, that's going to be a huge add-on, because you're probably going to take it into multiple ports, or you're probably going to want to take one that tends to lean a little expensive, maybe like swimming with the pigs or the ATVs. And if you are a stickler for being connected while you're on the go, Wi-Fi is going to be an expense that you have to consider too. And depending on the Wi-Fi package that some of the cruise lines offer, you could probably get away with the cheaper package, or you may need to upgrade to the premium just so you can stay in the know and keep in touch with what's going on back home. So to add it all up, once you start adding all that stuff in there, your $299 or your $99 person cruise could balloon to over $1,000. And that is defeating the purpose of booking a cheap cruise.
I always factor these costs in when comparing prices.
So important. So there you have it, the top 5 reasons on why you should look a little closer before booking that cheap cruise.
Absolutely. So remember, budget for hidden costs.
Set realistic expectations for food and accommodations.
Plan for crowds and plan accordingly.
And research your itinerary thoroughly. So if you keep the right mindset, even your budget cruise can be a reality. So with the right mindset, even a budget cruise can be a great vacation. It's just all about knowing what you're getting into.
And the more you know.
So drop down in the comments. Have you been on a cheap cruise? What would you add to this list?
So if you're looking to book that cheap cruise,
you can reach out to us here at On The Go Travel by emailing us at parkersonthego16@gmail.com, and we can help you book your next cruise adventure. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe for more cruise tips and tricks. And until next time, Parkers out. If you need assistance booking your next cruise, feel free to reach out to us at parkersonthego16@gmail.com, and we can help you book your next cruise adventure.
Watch this video right here.